One night when I was waiting for something to cool, I spotted this 3/4 inch threaded rod, and I had one of those what if moments. So what I'm doing here is strictly experimental. These are some 1-inch strips of 16-ounce copper. Now first I'm going to anneal these and then let them cool. You'll notice when I'm annealing copper, I'm moving my torch back and forth. That's so I don't burn a hole in the copper. Incidentally, this 3/4 inch threaded rod is steel. And you can get a threaded rod at your hardware store or your builder's supply. Placing the copper strip over the threaded rod and hammering with the flat part of the hammer. The hammer stroke forces the annealed copper down into the threads. Here I'm feeding the copper strip over the threaded rod. I'm using the folded up sweatshirt here primarily to deaden the sound. It also helps keep the threaded rod in place, although not as well as I would like. And here is an overhead view. As you can see, this is a bit cumbersome, and I'll need to figure out some way to hold the threaded rod stationary. But it's not bad for a start. And here's the piece once I've finished texturing and wire brushing. Okay, for this next step, this is a bit more difficult. Another strip of copper, and I repeat what I have just done and annealed the copper. Now I'm going to hammer with the copper placed lengthwise on the threaded rod. I like this pattern. Just a little bit more involved. It has just a bit more interest. So then, what if I had a 1-inch threaded rod? The threads would be further apart. But the local hardware didn't have a 1-inch threaded rod, so I bought a couple of 1-inch bolts. As you can see, I cut the head off one of the bolts so that it'll be easier to work with. I'm going to step it up here and hammer the copper strips between the two threaded bolts. The threads are offset so that they'll mesh. Although I can see there is room for improvement in the mechanics, I'm pleased at how far I've come in such a short time. The reason I made these brass sleeves is so there would be just a little contrast between the copper and, in this case, the brass. This is certainly an inexpensive way to texture copper. Just a hammer and either a threaded rod or some bolts. Now, if you like these techniques, you'll be able to work these into your own designs and carry these ideas even further.